What if Anakin Skywalker betrayed Palpatine and became Emperor? Let's explore the depths of this scenario in the video. As Palpatine watches the Jedi Temple burning in the distance, he smiles, knowing all that remains is dealing with the CIS Council, something Anakin should be more than capable of. The office doors slide open, and Anakin enters, grim-faced and staring at him.
Excellent job, my boy. I have one final task for you, and I shall teach you everything I know.
A flicker of amusement crosses Anakin's face as he stares at the Chancellor. Palpatine frowns as he leans closer.
Is something wrong?
No, not at all. I was just thinking as I stormed the Jedi Archives, and I realized something. Master Jocasta controlled access to the secret databanks, and I just killed her. So I took the data off her and have access myself.
And that means what?
It means I have all the information I need at my fingertips. You're useless to me now, Chancellor. Palpatine surges to his feet, but Anakin is faster. He throws both hands out and lifts Palpatine off the ground before slamming him against the wall. He smirks and draws his lightsaber. Snarling, the Emperor draws his own and moves to meet him. Rather than attack him directly, Palpatine veers to the side and lifts a shelf to throw at him. Anakin slices it apart and holds his lightsaber defensively to block his attack. As Palpatine bears down on him, Anakin twists it away and does a backflip. He pushes the Chancellor's desk over and slides it towards Palpatine, who leaps over it. As his feet touch the ground, Anakin presses him again. His movements grow faster and more aggressive as he doesn't hold back. The memories of what he did in the temple are still fresh in his mind and fuel his rage. That is something that Palpatine can't hope to match. Soon the Emperor finds himself stumbling back from the attacks. He knew Anakin was strong, but the power of his attacks takes Palpatine off guard, and he finds himself on the back foot. Desperately, he tries to get some distance to unleash Force Lightning on Anakin, but the Jedi easily blocks it, though it keeps Anakin in place and prevents him from stepping forward. Anakin feels his body trembling to keep the Emperor's attack back. He continues to fight against it, but then wills himself to step forward. With great effort, he manages to take a step forward, then another. He summons all his strength to keep moving. However, as he draws closer, the lightning grows stronger. It starts to singe his skin as stray sparks strike his face. The burning sensation spreads across his face, but he ignores it and continues to advance, pushing Palpatine's powers to its breaking point. Palpatine falters due to fatigue until it becomes too much. His hands drop to the ground and he falls to his knees. Anakin prepares to finish him off, but Palpatine blocks his attack with his lightsaber. In desperation, his other hand reaches for a second lightsaber he keeps hidden. Anakin notices the movement and catches the Chancellor's hand with his robotic arm and gives him a cruel twist. There's a loud snap as Palpatine's hand breaks. The pain shatters his concentration, allowing Anakin to bring his lightsaber across Palpatine's face. Anakin has little time to rest as he makes his way over to the Senate floor to reveal everything. I come to you today to report the tragic loss of our Chancellor. In his final days, he discovered a plot by the Jedi to usurp the government. He ordered me to quell this rebellion quickly. But while I stormed the Jedi Temple, a group of Jedi assassinated the Chancellor. In his final breaths, he informed me that he wished for me to continue leading the Republic in his stead. I do not want to be put into this position, but in memory of our glorious Chancellor, I must respect his final wishes and continue what he started. The Senate erupts in thunderous applause, able to be heard even outside the chambers. Although Dooku and Grievous have been defeated, the CIS remains at large, and I shall see us through this crisis until they are all defeated. To ensure our continued security and stability, the Republic will be reorganized into the Galactic Empire. We shall finally end this war. The senators welcome this development. All around him, cheers and applause erupt from the people who welcome this change. They are eager to see an end to this war, and Anakin certainly looks like he can handle it. He is young, energetic, and already a decorated war hero. Not everyone joins the applause, though, as Padme and a few others hesitate. However, she can do little, as her pregnancy reaches its final stages, forcing her to take a break from politics and prepare for the birth. While they go to a medical station for care for her, Anakin pores over the information in the archives, searching for anything about keeping someone alive or healing them. It takes weeks of studying until at last, the birth comes. And nothing happens. For all the fears he's had from his visions and Palpatine's manipulations, nothing happens to Padme. Although the process is long and painful, his wife had the 2 children and pulled through without any major issue. Relief washes over Anakin to see everything is all right, followed by the grim realization that they aren't. He had just committed genocide against all his former friends, and even killed Mace Windu and countless other Jedi. All that was for the promise of saving Padme and putting his visions to rest. The more he thinks about it, the more he finally comes to an epiphany. Palpatine was behind everything. The visions, the war, the fall of the Jedi Order. The realization sends him reeling, falling to his knees as he unleashes a wave of force that shatters the room, powered by a combination of intense grief and anger. Although presented with this horrible realization and regret, Anakin realizes he must continue down this path and lead the Empire, and what's done is done. Unfortunately for Anakin, the pain does not end there. Soon after, another tragedy strikes. Shortly after Padme returns home, she receives an unexpected visitor. In the dead of night, a figure slams through the window, shattering it into pieces and startling Padme and Anakin awake. The sound comes from the nursery, and the 2 leap to their feet, reaching for their weapons. When they head inside, they find a cloaked figure holding 2 bundles in his hands.
Don't move.
The figure turns his head in response to the voice, just as lightning flashes, illuminating his face to reveal Obi-Wan Kenobi. Without a word, he hurries out the window onto a waiting speeder. This catastrophe enrages Anakin, who loses himself in grief. He throws himself into hunting down the Jedi to search for his children. Anakin personally leads these operations, going to every hot spot and investigating every report that comes in, hoping to find Obi-Wan. This results in dozens of Jedi meeting their ends at the hands of Anakin, but none of them are his former master. With each Jedi that falls, his anger grows, and he becomes more paranoid, thinking they might be sheltering Obi-Wan. Meanwhile, the situation on Coruscant remains tense, as while the public initially was sympathetic towards Anakin, his prolonged absence begins taking a toll on the burgeoning Empire. Leaders like Tarkin are left to deal with running day-to-day operations, but lack the complete authority of the Emperor. This means they continue to report to him, slowing down any decisions that can be made. At the same time, it also allows corruption to grow unchecked, as the Emperor isn't there to keep the government officials in line. This leaves the Empire functioning without its head, causing some to doubt its legitimacy. Some even go as far as to say that Anakin is on a fool's quest, and his children are already dead. In response, he places commands that anyone who questions his children should be put to death. The quest to find his children becomes all-consuming, and even allows the CIS to rally and stabilize their defenses, further dragging out the Outer Rim sieges for several more years. But Anakin refuses to give up his search. None are more frustrated than the likes of Tarkin and other Imperial officers who see Anakin as incompetent and no longer fit to rule the Empire. Several of them decide that they must act to save the Empire. They first provide Anakin with a fake report of a sighting of Obi-Wan. As expected, Anakin takes the bait and moves to investigate. While he's gone, Tarkin gathers his cohorts and their loyal men as they march to the Senate. The building is soon in an uproar as hundreds of armed soldiers march inside, brandishing blasters and arresting anyone who steps in their way. I'm saving the galaxy from a lunatic who has no place on the throne. The Mad Emperor is no longer fit to rule, and the Senate must act before we are destroyed. Some shout at Tarkin, calling him a traitor and a usurper. As he listens to these claims, he waves his hands. This cannot continue. The Empire has grown weak under Anakin Skywalker's rule. We allowed him to rule because we thought he would provide pragmatism and energy to the Empire. But he has allowed sentiment and distractions to lure him away. Now he's nothing more than a liability. We have the means to remove him from power. I propose enacting Order 65 to have him taken out immediately. A murmur of agreement echoes through the room. Tarkin nods, his expression hardening as he steps forward. Many begin to shout their support as a vote is called. Far in the Outer Rim, Anakin feels a disturbance in the Force. He eyes the clones around him as they go about their duties. Everything seems normal, but he can sense an impending doom. As the clones receive a transmission from Coruscant, Anakin excuses himself and walks out of the bridge. When the clones receive their orders, they immediately begin searching for Anakin. But by now, he manages to reach his shuttle and fly off. Blaster fire pours after him, but it's too late, as his ship takes off and leaves his troops behind. Anakin has the Navicomputer take him to Naboo. He heads to the Gungans domain, and to his relief, finds Padme safe and sound. When she heard of the coup, she immediately fled here to escape the soldiers. However, they are both safe. They know they cannot remain in hiding for long, as the Imperial Army will continue to search for them. The only place they can go is to the Outer Rim, far from Imperial control. Padme suggests Tatooine, as it's still part of Hutt space, allowing them to live out in secrecy. Although reluctant to return to his homeworld, Anakin agrees, and the two settle in a moisture farm. It is a quiet and peaceful life, but Anakin does not remain satisfied. He longs for his throne and begins plotting to retake it, trying to hire mercenaries with what little wealth they have left. Padme desperately pleads with him to stop, but Anakin remains adamant. He insists that Tarkin must have overthrown him because he came close to tracking down the Jedi, and he must have been their spy. This isn't right, Padme. I was the Emperor. I had the power and control. And now look at us, hiding like fugitives.
It's not so bad, Annie. We're safe here, and we can have a life together.
This is no life. While we live here, that traitor sits upon my throne.
Anakin, please. Let it go. It nearly destroyed us. Didn't you see that? The Empire, the throne. It's not worth the price we've already paid.
Padme sadly returns to their room. Later that night, Anakin receives a mysterious message claiming that his children are nearby. Desperation and hope mingle in his chest as he follows the directions to a secluded hut on the outskirts of the desert. The wind howls as he approaches, his heart pounding in his chest. He steps inside, only to find Obi-Wan Kenobi waiting for him, calm and resolute.
So the Mad Emperor finally shows himself.
Where are my children, Obi-Wan?
They're safe, Anakin. That's all you need to know.
Anakin's fury ignites, and he draws his lightsaber. You took everything from me. I'll make you pay for this.
I took nothing from you that you didn't throw away yourself.
He pulls out his lightsaber and readies himself as Anakin comes at him. Their lightsabers spark and ignite the night. Anakin draws on his anger and grief to power him, thinking of that night he lost his family. The anger gives him strength as he shoves Obi-Wan back. Obi-Wan narrowly avoids a fatal strike, realizing that Anakin's anger is pushing him to the brink. Yet he refuses to raise his weapon in anger, fighting defensively or dodging his attacks. As he sidesteps another attack, Anakin shoves him back and sends sand flying. Obi-Wan cries out and tries to wipe his eyes. Suddenly, he hears a low hum as Anakin's lightsaber lashes out and nearly runs him through. Obi-Wan continues to dodge and leap, using only his hearing to avoid the attacks, until Anakin throws another force push and sends him stumbling to the ground. He manages to wipe his eyes just as Anakin stands over him. Before he can finish him off, a voice cries out,
Please, stop this!
"He took our children, Padme!"
No, he didn't. I'm the one who told Obi-Wan to take our children, Anakin. I didn't want them to grow up in a world filled with suffering and cruelty, like the Empire. I hoped that maybe, just maybe, I could convince you to step down, to let go of your anger so we could rejoin them. But I was wrong. You didn't want to let go of power. You don't want to end suffering. We can still have a life together, but not like this. Not with you consumed by the Empire.
To her shock, she feels her throat constricting as Anakin chokes her. "Let her go, Anakin! I gave everything for this family."
No. You sacrificed everything and everyone for promises and falsehoods. You were played and manipulated by Palpatine. But nonetheless, they were your actions.
Anakin snarls in fury, feeling the darkness seep into him. But as he glances up at the ashen face of Padme, his anger begins to melt, and he releases her. I just wanted to protect you. To protect them. I thought I was doing the right thing.
If you wish to protect her, then you must undo the evil you unleashed. You can never become Emperor, but you can still fix this.
The first step of this plan is to find Tarkin and put a stop to him. Here Anakin has a good idea of where he might be. When he was looking over Palpatine's databanks, one of the things he found was his plans for a superstation that could destroy a planet. While it's still in its early stages, Tarkin would want to oversee its construction. Even if he isn't, destroying that station would be a way to draw him out. Anakin gathers the mercenaries he was trying to hire and uses his shuttle to take them to the half-built Death Star. He flies in frantically, saying how he's under attack by a rogue Jedi and sustained serious damage. He must dock into the station to make repairs. Using Anakin's knowledge of Imperial security codes, the group secures a landing on the station. As they approach, a Jedi starfighter appears out of nowhere and strafes them with laser fire. Before the shuttle can return fire, the Jedi starship veers off, leaving them in the dust. TIE fighters fly after the starfighter in pursuit, taking the attention off the defenses.
I hope Ahsoka knows what she's doing.
She had been another person Anakin called for this mission. Ahsoka would create a distraction and keep the station occupied, at least partially, while they fulfilled the mission. Padme, disguised as an Imperial officer, leads the mercenaries to the construction areas. Their job is to rouse the slaves into rebellion and get them off the station. Meanwhile, Anakin and Obi-Wan make their way to the reactor. Together, they make their way deeper into the bowels of the Death Star, moving swiftly through the labyrinth of stark gray corridors toward the reactor. They pass several checkpoints, Anakin's security codes granting them access. But each time they approach a checkpoint, his heart skips a beat, as he worries someone might discover their ruse. Those thoughts are interrupted by the sounds of blaster fire and explosions in the distance, as the slaves clash with Imperial forces, pulling away many of the guards. Thankfully, nothing happens until they reach the reactor, which looms large and is dominated by a pulsing energy core. The low mechanical whir of the reactor fills the air as they approach the central control panel. Obi-Wan quickly begins setting up the explosives, while Anakin stands watch. With how large the reactor is, it requires plenty of explosives. The process is slow going as Obi-Wan has to spread them out. This leaves Anakin tapping his foot impatiently as he glances towards him.
We're almost there. Just need a few more minutes.
But before Obi-Wan can finish, alarms blare, their shrill cries echoing through the chamber. The heavy doors to the reactor slide open with a hiss, revealing a squad of security droids and stormtroopers. One of the troopers raises a holodisc to reveal Tarkin's cold, calculating expression.
I expected more from you, Skywalker. Did you think you could slip in here unnoticed? The Emperor may be gone, but the Empire is not so easily defeated.
Perhaps. You never really impressed me, Governor.
I could say the same thing for you, Skywalker. This weapon will make your entire culture obsolete in an instant. A shame you will not be around to see it.
With a flick of his hand, the Imperial forces open fire. Anakin's lightsaber is instantly in his hands as he deflects blaster fire and glances back at Obi-Wan.
Just like old times, isn't it?
Don't get too nostalgic. I can't keep them back forever. As they begin to advance, Anakin moves like a blur to prevent them from getting close. His lightsaber twirls in precise arcs as he deflects their incoming fire. He leaps forward, cutting down the first line of troopers, and unleashes a powerful force wave that sends many of his foes tumbling. Obi-Wan continues working on the explosives as the stormtroopers press forward, forcing Anakin to step back to protect Obi-Wan. A pair of droids manage to sneak up behind Anakin and move in to attack Obi-Wan, but the older Jedi suddenly whirls around and shatters them with a single blow. He throws their sparking ruins into the lines of droids. Tarkin watches the battle unfold and taps a command into his wrist console, and a second wave of droids marches into the chamber.
Anakin, the charges are set. We need to go. Now!
The two shove the droids and stormtroopers blocking their path as they make their way to the exit. Meanwhile, Padme reports that she's managed to free the slaves who leave on escape pods while she's making her way back to the shuttle. As they prepare to leave, half a dozen of the explosives suddenly tumble off the reactor and fall into the abyss. Obi-Wan gasps as the Grand Inquisitor appears, flicking his wrist and sending more tumbling off.
Did you think it would be that easy?
Obi-Wan hits the detonator, sending explosions ripping through the room and throwing them back. The unfortunate stormtroopers and droids all tumble off, with only Obi-Wan, Anakin, and the Grand Inquisitor remaining on their feet. Nearly a dozen explosions go off, leaving the reactor ablaze, and klaxons blaring around them. However, it is not enough, as the reactor remains still functional.
Obi-Wan, take Padme and get out of here. I'll handle this one.
Anakin, don't even think about it. You can't. There must be another way.
There's no time to argue. You need to go now, or this will all be for nothing. I must atone for my actions. Go, Obi-Wan. Be the father I couldn't be. Raise my children and tell them I love them.
Obi-Wan hesitates, his heart torn, but he sees the unyielding resolve in Anakin's eyes. He reluctantly nods, turning to leave. He pauses for one last look at his friend.
May the Force be with you, Anakin.
Anakin gives him a sad smile before turning to the Grand Inquisitor as Obi-Wan dashes toward the exit. The Inquisitor lunges, his double-bladed lightsaber spinning. Anakin meets his attack with a counter-strike. He leaps up from the backswing and their blades clash again, letting the sound echo across the reactor chamber. Anakin moves back, circling the Grand Inquisitor and then lunging at him, his movements becoming wilder and more aggressive as he's born of desperation. He does not back down and throws his attacks with increasing speed that the Inquisitor cannot meet. Seeing that Anakin is gaining the upper hand, the Grand Inquisitor begins spinning his saber in a wheel of death. This halts the Jedi's attack as he begins to step back from the attacks. But Anakin, drawing on every ounce of his skill and power, meets him blow for blow. Taking a deep breath, he swings his lightsaber and catches the spinning blade. Anakin channels the Force to try and slow it down just enough for him to slam his head against the Inquisitor. This shatters his momentum and allows Anakin to move with a blinding series of strikes, until at last he feels a surge of energy and drives the Grand Inquisitor into the control panel, sending his body bursting with energy as he crumbles to the ground. Anakin closes his eyes, reaching out with the Force, feeling the chaotic energy of the reactor. He extends his will into the core, focusing all his power on destabilizing it. The chamber begins to shake violently as the reactor's energy spirals out of control, the lights flickering as the station starts to buckle under the strain. Obi-Wan races through the corridors, dodging blaster fire and leaping over debris as the station begins to shake from the impending explosion. He reunites with Padme and the surviving mercenaries at the hangar bay, and they hurriedly aboard the ship.
Where's Anakin? He was right behind you.
He stayed behind to make sure the explosives went off. We have to go. Now!
Padme begins to tear up, but there's no time to mourn. The shuttle takes off, racing away from the Death Star just as the reactor detonates in a blinding explosion. The massive station begins to implode, its destruction lighting up the surrounding space. Inside the shuttle, Obi-Wan and Padme watch as the Death Star is consumed by fire, knowing that Anakin's sacrifice has saved countless lives. Padme clutches her heart, tears streaming down her face as she whispers a final goodbye.
Goodbye, my love. Thank you for giving us a chance.
The shuttle speeds away, the explosion's shockwave rocking it as the Death Star is reduced to a fiery wreckage. Anakin's final act of heroism ensures the Empire's downfall, leaving Obi-Wan and Padme to carry on the legacy left behind. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.